For those of you who know, I'm not Petch Manopawitr. I'm James True. I work in Thailand at SMB University. So, what we've got in Thailand is a slightly different system to Australia. It's very highly balkanised. There's a lot of interest in engagement of, well, I'll use the bad word CSR, but there's also a lot of interest in the whole idea of what we do to restore what's been lost. There's an increasing perception in Thailand that there used to be something good, now it's not. And there's a lot of agencies involved, not just government agencies as here, but from grassroots to corporate to NGOs, and many, many different types of non-profit organisations are interested. At the bottom level, there's an enormous number of small businesses who simply can't stand seeing the environmental degradation around them. They want to do something, so they do. And whether or not they get permits, whether or not they get permission, whether or not they have a single clue about what they're doing, it doesn't matter, they want to do it. And this is seen in Thailand, it's not a bad thing. If you've got the heart to do it, you should do it. But there's an emphasis on small projects, small interventions, a lot of polypipe on the reef. It goes on. But once you start aggregating these people into community groups, then there's a lot more emphasis on the behavioural change, trying to get tourists to behave themselves, trying to get tour operators to behave themselves, and there's a lot more of this public awareness development. At the high end of town, it comes into this gift giving, this investing in, here's us doing spending money on a school, here's us spending money planting mangroves. And this is all hived off the marketing budget. And this is an important part of the whole CSR process, is that it comes from the marketing budget. Management agencies in most of Southeast Asia tend to be heavy-handed and fairly predictable. In Thailand, we call it planes, trains and automobiles, and other things. They also tend to use fairly blatant management techniques. If they see this, in 2010, we lost up to 90% coral coverage on many reefs, and the national parks, who own most of the reefs in Thailand, simply closed a lot of them to public access. And that was the solution. There was no more action on it. We'll close it, come back in a few years maybe. The other thing that both corporate and management agencies tend to do is this livelihood offset stuff. And a lot of this involves the deployment of your standard hollow cube fishery module. And these are just the go-to, we want to get the locals off our back. Here's an artificial reef. We'll throw a few of these off the back of the deck. There are many problems with these. Partly, they don't show up at all well on the sonar of the trawlers, and quite a lot of them end up like this. The other thing is that there's a lot of literature out there that describes how ineffective they are when they're just scattered on the seafloor. They're just fads. And what happened here in Hippie was that a local group of dive shop owners said, why don't we talk to the agency that's throwing all this stuff in the sea and see whether we can do something that is productive on both sides. And so because they had personal connections with an agency that was involved in restoration, tasked with restoration, they could find a pathway to talk to the people and say, you throw them off the back deck, will rearrange them into something useful. And this sort of thing started to get a head of steam in Thailand. We've started to see aggregates, coalitions of management agencies with NGOs and SMB type arrangements together to not only go a little bit bigger. This is the Thai Navy getting rid of some of their surplus inventory. But what they did was they put out bids for a business case where, in this case, Kottao, the business community of Kottao bid for an artificial reef based on a shipwreck. And this whole thing is suddenly starting to get, once you're getting the official stamp on things in Thailand, then the locals take notice and then you get genuine behavioural change. So, one example I'm going to show you is from Kottao. Kottao means Turtle Island, and for a long time we were not sure whether we were going to keep any turtles there. But through a series of micro-grants and engagement over a period of about 8 to 10 years, we started getting behavioural and tangible conservation outcomes through this process of micro-grants, but also getting the national management agencies involved and engaged. And so one of the big things was that the communities tendered a proposal to the management agencies to change the zoning so that they were actually self-constraining. They didn't want unrestricted development. They wanted development along sustainable pathways. And we've done all sorts of things there that really made Kottao a bit of a standout in terms of conservation-based ecotourism. At the other end of the town, or the other end of the country, you've got somewhere like Phuket. Now, tourism constitutes about 17% of Thailand's GDP. It's a not insignificant contributor to national income. Phuket Island contributes about a third of that. And a large proportion of that is reef-based. Which means that there's a tremendous amount of money just circulating around. As we heard this morning, there's just so much money in this industry. There are so many stakeholders, there are so many people. If you've got a 400 room and you're charging $300 a night, then that's not an insignificant income. So I sent a carload of students over to have a look at the environment, and what we found is that resorts that have exclusive frontage often have better reefs, even if they're not aware of them. So we went in as a proposal to all these resorts. We had an existing pathway. We looked at whether or not there's a case to augment the existing management structure by incorporating the hotels. So we already had an entity that we set up for turtle conservation that involved a lot of CSR from some fairly large corporate players, plus management agencies. So we used this as a pathway, and the Marriott hotels were building a new hotel. And we talked to them and they said, right, we'll do this from scratch. We'll actually use this as part of our core marketing strategy. And so right down there on the front page of their website, they're advertising the house reef. And as part of this ground-up strategy, they built a reef education centre. They incorporated the house reef into their core marketing strategy. And they went hard on social media. They're using it as a way of advertising their hotel as an eco-friendly 5-star hotel. And simply having a box where people can throw their unused currency as they're on the way to the airport means that since we opened this in April last year, we raised $17,500 just in flung money. That cost the quota nothing. And this actually paid for 2 salaries to graduate students. So we're actually continuing this. So a lot of outcomes there. One of the conceits we made was that we developed a reef guidebook. And the conceit there is that it was every photograph in the book was taken within 100 yards of the pool. And so this became another thing. One of these goes in every room. There's about 5 pages of behavioural and conservation messaging in the book. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. So, behavioural change within the corporation means that, for instance, we got them to change from single-use plastic bottles of water in the room to now using recyclable glass bottles. They saved themselves $500,000 baht. So it's actually winning for everybody. And that's me, is it? But now we're expanding the thing. We've got 3 more hotels we did the guidebooks for. And we have an engagement protocol that we're working on to make this a more general practice. And of course, having a rush in there makes it better. We can talk about this in the break, I guess. I seem to have overrun the time.
Well, the time between presentation and questions is fungible.
All right.
It's 15 in total. But,
okay. So what we learned basically, there are always people you have to talk to. Sam just said exactly the same thing. Once you know the engagement pathways, then you can actually start making these linkages. And it really takes a disinterested third party, often an NGO, in this case IUC in Asia, to go and talk to the disparate parties and engage with them, find the key levers, find the people who are interested in cooperating, persuade them there's a win in both cases, and try and form a coalition of the willing. Somewhat counterintuitively, government agencies seem to like the idea of somebody else paying for their stuff. And this can't be done on an ad hoc basis. You actually need to have this build-up strategy. You need to work out a timeline, and you need to stage the engagement so that people are not simply parasitising something that's already there. They need to be engaged. They need to make it real for their organisation. And of course, every governance system has a different engagement protocol pathway. And this is something we're working on now, is to try to make a more generic engagement protocol that shows how to build basically a flowchart level protocol for engagement, public-private partnerships for conservation. So that's